In this video, we want to look at a Flask app that has multiple routes, and the HTML pages of those routes have a common layout, and that common layout introduces a navigation scheme between the two routes. So that's our goal here, is the new thing is the navigation. So one thing is that we've been having a default route and a first route that lead to the same page but are distinct routes, and we're going to change that because of the navigation to a redirect. So there's no longer going to be, there'll be a default route, but it will redirect. So you will never, the user will never see a sort of a default route. If they go to the default route, it will redirect them to the first route. Then we're going to add a navigation between the two pages, just basically some hyperlinks and a list. And then we will have some styling to make that navigation look more like, you know, sort of standard menu selection. So that's what's going to be new in this one. So let's get started. I'm in the folder of Flask demos, but I want to move into my virtual environment and activate it. So C, D, V, and V to get to move into the right place. Scripts, I'm in a Windows system. .activate, that's a PowerShell command in this instance. And then I want to specify, again, this is PowerShell, then the app, I have a number of apps in my folder. The app I'm interested in is this Flask add navigation. And then I want to run it. I could also do some debugging. Yeah, let me do that just in case. So allow me to debug and then Flask run. Okay, and then control click here. Here's a page again. So now, normally in previous times, I would have come up to the default route to start, but the default route is now redirected to first. So without me as a user doing anything, I ended up moving to the first route. And then we have, again, in this layout situation, there is some common stuff. So I have the header at the top here is common. I have this stuff at the top, it's header. Here's this navigation. Here's the new thing going from first and second routes or pages. Here's some data, Fred and Dancer. That was some data that was passed, as is this title, the first one. So we have some data being passed, but some common stuff. We've added a navigation to the common stuff. So that's the new stuff we want to look at. So I can move over to the second route. Previously, I was just going up to the address bar up here and typing in second to move the second route. Now I have, within the shared layout, this movement between the two routes, and they are styled. So I have like a hover effect and so on. So let's have a look at an overall, but with an emphasis on the new stuff. Okay, we have a Flask app. Here is the redirect, and to do a redirect, we added redirect. So Flask is just basic everything to get us a Flask app. When we put HTML pages that we are being directed to in the templates folder, we use render template. We were having another located file, in this case, the CSS file. And we are finding out where it was with URL_4. And now we are doing a redirect within our website. And so we had to bring that in. And so here we are, we're moving to the first route. We are redirecting to the first route if they come to the default route. So that's how that was handled. Here's the first route. It's handled by a method I'm still saying hello world for. We're using a render template. We specify the HTML we're going to. We're passing in some data has called pass1, which is a dictionary. We're also sending some additional information called title. Here's the second route. We're going to second with nav underscore HTML. We're sending it some data. We're sending it title. Okay, so that's mostly the same as before. The big thing here in the Python part, or the Flask part, is the redirect. Okay, so now let's move over. Here is in templates. First with navigation is pretty much the same, except now it's extending layout with navigation. So I didn't have to change as much as I did, but I wanted to keep the other one existing. So I changed this file that it extends layout with navigation rather than just editing layout. So this is mostly the same as before, except it's now extending layouts with navigation. And so layout with navigation, it's here's the place to put the title. Here's the link to the URL or the URL for. We're going to the static folder, and now it's common with nav CSS. So we have to look at some changes in the CSS that have to do with the navigation. And this is mostly the same, but here's the navigation part. So here's the place to put the unique content for the page, the block I called stuff. And here's the header stuff, which was common. And here's the new navigation, which is also common. So I made an unordered list, a UL. I gave it the class nav, so it could be styled. And then there was a list item. This is standard navigation, standard HTML navigation. There's an unordered list with a style nav to style it. Two list items, which are the two items of the menu. Anchor tags href going to the first and the second. So that's the redirect, the hyperlinking from one page to the other. And I call them first and second. So that is our common navigation. Because it's in the layout, which is shared by the first and the second page, the navigation will appear on both the first and second page. And so we saw the first page, the second page is similar. We saw here's the navigation added to the common layout. And then the only thing I have left to show you then is the styling of that layout. And this has got not much to do with Flash and more to do with CSS. Well, the body hasn't changed. I think I changed some of the, didn't like the font I was using or some of the sizes I was using. So this has changed a little bit, but that's not the important change that I care about. Here's the navigation. To make a list not look like a list of one thing under another, we say the list style type is none. The margins are none and the padding is none. This is just standard kind of styling to make a navigation. The list item within the navigation class, we put inline blocks so we can sort of assign them a width. And then here is that width, a size of 6 rem. And then we do some styling of the anchor tags of the hyperlinks within the list items that are within the class nav. We made them of a block style, gave them a color, background color, gave them a writing color, put them in the center, padding, made a border color of olive green for some unknown reason. And then finally, some additional styling for when the user is hovering over the hyperlink that belongs to the list item that belongs to an item in the navigation class, which is an unordered list. So here we see that hovering effect. We see there that green border. It says first and second. And again, so this navigation takes us back and forth, and it is shared between the two routes. So because it belongs to the common layout. So that's all. So it's not much new in the way of Flask, but because we didn't want to complicate the navigation, so we took our default route and used a redirect. So that was the big change at the sort of Python Flask level. And then the rest of it was basically HTML, CSS kind of changes of adding a navigation to the layout with a reference. And we're referencing, the routes here. The pages will be worked out sort of behind the scenes. So in our hyperlinks are just two routes. And then sort of look up your favorite styling of a menu for a navigation menu. Okay, that's what I'm. Let me show you a change to the styling, because that can sometimes be confusing. So let's make this some pink kind of color. Okay, so now my border, instead of being olive green, so I'm going to save that. But we can see here they're still green. And when you edit, let's try a refresh, and that was enough to work the refresh. Sometimes I found that with styles, I will hit Ctrl-Shift-R. In this case, it worked with just a refresh, which actually surprises me, but so be it. So because of the debugging thing we did, we can make a change, save it, and refresh the page. Sometimes with a style change, if the style has been cached, you may need to sort of Ctrl-Shift-R to get to see the change. But in this case, we just saw that the refresh was enough. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you. Thanks much for your attention.